Hi, everybody. I'm Bryan Mudd, a fan of South Plains politics. Here's your talking points for this week. 2020 is awful and everything is terrible. Well, maybe not. Some business owners might disagree, but our overall economic situation is not as grim as you might think. And there are some out there who are waiting to see if your Austin representative gets a new job. A look at what's at stake as the next legislative session gets closer.
From the studios of KAMC Television in Lubbock, your local election headquarters. This is Talking Points with Bryan Mudd.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Also this week, credit where it's due. When this COVID situation is over at some point, there will be plenty to criticize, but we're getting to the point now where, despite what you may think about business decisions, it's time to hand out a little credit. The quick development of a vaccine is a win for the Trump administration. The statewide distribution plan that's ready to go is a win for Governor Abbott and his team. And it's nice to be able to talk about the 1.4 million coronavirus vaccines that'll be in Texas for our frontline workers on or about December 14th. County Health Authority Dr. Ron Cook says these vaccines are a light at the end of the tunnel. But it's a long tunnel for the rest of us. It'll still be months before there's enough vaccine available to the general public. Dr. Cook said this week he feels the shot will be safe, and it's 80% of us. He says that we need to get this vaccine in order to achieve a herd immunity.
The good news is that it's also 90 to 94 or 95% effective in creating immunity against this virus. It's a safe drug. I've already seen the emails from different people saying that it merges with your DNA and creates all kinds of problems. That is absolutely not true.
And Dr. Cook says it'll take about 6 to 7 weeks for a vaccinated person to have that full immunity. So who decides who gets the shots first? We know healthcare workers are at the top of that list, which makes sense. But what about after that? KAMC's Wes Rappaport takes a look at these decisions and how equipped the Texas healthcare system is to make all this happen.
Inside Texas hospitals, nurses are preparing to get the COVID-19 vaccine and give it to
role models in the community. So when the opportunity becomes available for the general public to become vaccinated, that, we were first in line and now they can follow the nurse's lead.
Governor Greg Abbott announced this week Texas will receive enough material to give 1.4 million people an initial dose of the 2-shot vaccines made by Pfizer and Moderna, assuming the FDA approves them. First up are those healthcare workers. Look at how many there are in Texas based on a statewide estimate. More than 1 million healthcare, EMS, and hospital personnel. Nursing home residents total more than 135,000 statewide. There are close to 4 million adults 65 and older and nearly 9.5 million Texans with medical conditions that make them high risk for complications with coronavirus. Now the distribution. The Department of State Health Services says more than 4,000 providers signed up with the state to administer the vaccine. That includes medical practices, hospitals, pharmacies, long-term care facilities, local health departments, and the correctional system. I'm told the first shipments will go to larger health facilities who can vaccinate the most workers in the shortest amount of time, but the rest of the providers who signed up for doses will get a chance to order in the spring when there's more supply.
We're going to need more on down the line, but it gets us moving down that path of securing the healthcare system here in Texas.
In Austin, Wes Rappaport, KAMC News.
All right, Wes, thank you so much, and we're always glad to be joined by District 4 Councilman Steve Massengale. I don't know that people realize you've been dealing with the virus for the last couple of weeks now. How are you feeling today?
Feel good today, Brian. I tested positive 2 weeks ago today and seemed to get the full course. I had the fever, the fatigue, the coughs, have a little bit of the cough left, but I had a full course.
Goodness. Has the experience changed the way you think about how our city and medical workers have handled the virus control? Should we be doing more of certain things, maybe less of others?
I don't know if it's changed the way I think of it. I've been so close to it since the beginning, but it certainly gives me a new perspective, of being maybe sensitive to those that get it that maybe aren't as healthy as I am. I mean, it's rough. Yeah. And I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And if, you don't think it's real until you get it, it's real. I mean, COVID is no joke. And it would just cause me to to reemphasize to everybody how important it is to wear your mask and keep your distance and wash your hands, and let's stay the course on this thing until we get it beat.
We're going to talk about this more in just a little bit, but even in the middle of this, do you start to think about maybe new things the city can do to help small business owners in 2021 rebound, come back, reform from this COVID mess, things of that nature?
You know, as we rebound, it's going to be vital that we support our small businesses. I mean, I'm a small business owner that's been impacted by COVID-19. And all we can do is continue to lift them up and identify what their needs are. You know, hopefully there's some more federal programs coming down that we can help get to them, but it's going to be important to maintain our local economy.
As far as you know, local budgets, I know we're past budget time now. Can you speak to how you thought that turned out, and maybe how you've been able to plan ahead as the pandemic continues through the budget?
I guess you're talking about the city budget?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the city budget process went very smoothly. I was very pleased with the way the city manager and the staff handled it. You know, we have some unknown expenses related to the coronavirus as a city, some that we're still looking to get reimbursement from the state on, and some of that's still unknown as to when that reimbursement will come, but we're still watching all those expenses very closely.
We're going to talk a little bit about the legislative agenda for the city for the upcoming session and federal as well in just a moment, but what expectations do you have about getting help from the state in 2021 as we look at least another quarter of COVID problems?
Well, I have to say, up to this point, the state has been very helpful, and the governor's office has been very responsive, and visually you can see that in our community when we have great needs. And so I hope that moving forward that politics don't mud the water, and as we move forward, to make sure that we can keep clear focus on what we really need to be doing. And I know that, you know, I know that not all the legislature agrees on how this has been handled, but you know, my hat's off to the governor's office so far.
It's a tough job, especially when it's your name on the door. I mean, everyone can play Monday morning quarterback, but it's hard when people, and you can speak to this as well, when people are in your office saying people may die on your watch. I mean, that's got to matter to you more than just talking about money and dollars and you know, all the little things like that.
No doubt. I mean, that's how serious this is, and you know, it's what keeps you up at night is our hospitals and our hospital workers and our hospital capacity, and that's why we're doing everything we can do is to protect that you know, it's a luxury that we have, especially out here in West Texas, is that if we're sick or one of our loved ones are sick and we need to get to the hospital, we expect there to be a bed. Well, that's not the case right now, and so that's why we're fighting every day to make sure that we can mitigate the spread of the virus.
You mentioned politics, and I know state leadership was in the council chambers a lot over the last few weeks with the Planned Parenthood stuff, and things were about as publicly contentious as they'll get, I think, with that. Does that change relationships with them or any ability to potentially work with them on future matters for Lubbock?
You know, I was pretty open about my comments and how I felt about the way our state delegation has inserted themselves into that. But I still try to keep the relationship professional moving forward, and I hope they will too, especially as we enter in this next session. There's so many important items that will come up in this year's session that are going to be important to Lubbock and the state.
Sure. The sanctuary city for the unborn ordinance issue may very well go to a vote of the people now. You've looked at this closely. What should happen with that moving forward, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I think it's an effort that must start at the state and ultimately end at the federal level. I mean, it's really got no play here at the local level. I equated it earlier to, you know, if we decided as a community that we wanted to be a haven for federal income tax, and let's say we got the support to pass an ordinance for that. I mean, would you expect not to pay federal income tax if that happened? I don't think so. And so that's how effective a local ordinance would be against a landmark case in the Supreme Court.
Good to see you back on the job, my friend. And I know the last couple of weeks have been rough, and so I'm real thankful that you're back there and feeling better, and hope you can continue your recovery. District 4 Councilman Steve Massengale, thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.